All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Nun Daled Mesachos Pesachim. Another Geshmaka Daf we get to do. It's a good one today. So we left off yesterday towards the end. There was a Maisa. There was three. There was Ula, and he was accompanied by I think Rabbi Abba and Rabba, and they were going down, and he said a halacha regarding Yom Kippur falling out on Shabbos. Even normally on Yom Kippur, those who don't have a light on Shabbos, nevertheless, he made a statement that only Motzi Shabbos, not Motzi Yom Kippur, do you make a bracha ala Eish. Right? You don't make a bracha, you don't make Havdalah ala Eish after Yom Kippur, only after Shabbos, because that's when fire was created. We're going to get to that later, a little later on. And then he basically got upset with him. He says, in terms of quoting Rabbi Yochanan saying that, he says, basically, so he said, I never said that Rabbi Yochanan said that. He basically, gazed at Rabbi Abba and said, I never said that. All Rabbi Yochanan, the halach I said was about the places, even those people, right, who don't light a candle in their home on Yom Kippur night, Yom Kippur and Shabbos together, you go ahead and you light candles in the house. Okay, you light candles in the house because even though there's no meal, nevertheless for Shabbos, you go ahead and light the candles. Even those who don't light the candles on Yom Kippur, we said you don't light the candles on Yom Kippur because if it could come to lead to relations. So says the bottom line. So Kari Allah Rav Yosef. So they said about. So Rav Yosef said about this this interchange. Mai mamukim eitza belev ish. V'ish tevuna yildana maya. The ish tevuna yildana. All right, so that was the pasuk. So it means it's broken down meaning what? My mamukim eitza belevish. That which it says, right? The person's heart is like deep water. That refers to Ula because Ula understood that. He understood where he was coming from, but in other words, why he thought that he said that, but he didn't say anything. He just looked at the Rabbi Rechana. Actually, he just looked at Rabba, or Rabbi, yeah, it was Rabbi Rechana, right? And ish tvuna yildena, but it said then a man who understands yildena will pull it out, right? Is that Rabbi Rechana? That was Rabbi Rechana who basically got him to say where Rabbi Abba thought that Ula made the statement about Rabbi Yochanan. He was able to draw it out. So basically, by his look at him, he basically got him to draw it as to where he thought the source was. Now, going back to the subject matter. So that was just the exchange. So V'inu Kaman Sevirhu. So who do they hold like in terms to say that you don't do that? So in other words, they only make Vermeer Eish on Motzi Shabbos, not any other time, not even Motzi Yom Kippur. So who says you do? So Be'e Motzi Shabbos, Be'e Motzi Yom Kippur, V'chein Amud Davar, right? You make a bracha on the fire, whether it's every Saturday night after Shabbos or Motzi Yom Kippur, and that's how people are nohig. So Meis Ve'aser Kasha Ein V'rachin Alor El B'Motzi Shabbos Hoit Chas B'Riyasahu. You only make the bracha on fire only on Motzi Shabbos and not Yom Kippur. So Yom Kippur falls out on a Tuesday, right? You don't make or a Monday, right? So you don't go ahead and make Havdalah, right, Monday night after it's over, because fire was created. It's a Saturday night bracha because that's when fire was created. And once you go ahead and see the fire on Motzei Yom Kippur, make a bracha then. You don't wait to go ahead and make Havdalah altogether. Rather, you see the fire, you make the bracha then. Rabbi Yehuda, you go ahead and make it al kos. From Rabbi Yochanan, halach Rabbi Yehuda. The Rabbi Yochanan said the halach is like Rabbi Yehuda regarding the fact that you do it al kos, that you do all the brachas together with B'samim, Havdalah. You do it all together, but he doesn't seem to argue that it's only Motzi Shabbos. So my answer is no. Like kasha kam be'or sheshavas kan be'or hayetzim and ha'etzim and avanim. No, there's a difference. One is talking about or sheshavas, a fire that was existing. An existing fire is a bracha is made on Motzi Yom Kippur. But so in other words, if there was a fire that went through or somehow was created on Yom Kippur, but it was not created after Yom Kippur was over, right? Then you make a bracha on Motzi Yom Kippur, but and that's why we do that. A lot of people leave a fire on throughout Yom Kippur in order to make Havdalah from that fire. And the other one is talking about one that you make, right? You light it with the match or with the stones or whatever, Flintstones, whatever you go ahead and use. That's only when it's made from wood or Flintstones. Then those are done only Motzi Shabbos. And Tanichad or Hayetzman Eitzim Avanim Varchan Alav, Tanichad Im Varchan Alav. We have another brayso that says stira, right? That whether or not you go ahead and make a bracha on a new fire, one that was started after, right, after the holiday is over, right? Whether you go ahead and make a eish and or not, some say you do make a bracha, some say you don't. And once again, like kashi hak kabi Motzei Shabbos kabi Yom Kippur, Motzei Yom Kippur. If it's Motzei Yom Kippur, then you go only make a bracha on an existing fire. If it was Motzei Shabbos, then you go ahead and make a bracha even on something that was created. Now, Rabbi Mefarzan and Rabbi Chia Mechansen, right? So Rabbi, he's going to basically separate the brachas. Whenever he would smell something, he would make a b'samim. Whenever he would go ahead and see the fire, he would make an eish, and then he would make the havdalah. And Rabbi Chia Mechansen, he would bring them all together. Basically, he make all of them together. And Rabbi Farzan so he says, even though that Rabbi used to go ahead and basically make the bracha separately, not all together, he used to bring it all together in order to be mitzi his family members. Now the Gemara is going to go, or b'Motzei Shabbos was fire created on Motzei Shabbos? We're going to have a couple different beginnings of fire. So time we learn in brayso. We're just going to go through these quickly because of lack of time. But we learn in brayso. Shabbos. There were 10 things that were created in Erev Shabbos. Ben Hashmashos, right before the first Shabbos, right during the creation. These 10 things were created. Elohei, these are it. Bear, the well of Miriam, the Haman, and the man in the midbar, the Keshes and the rainbow, Ksav, script, right? Hebrew script, Michtav, right? The writing utensil that was used for the luchos, and luchos themselves, the Kodesh Moshe, and the grave of Moshe Rabbeinu was prepared. And when Moshe Rabbeinu went to go, with Hashem, that special Mara that Moshe Rabbeinu went to go ahead and stand, the Moshe V'Eliyahu, Psichas Pia Ason, and then the mouth of the donkey that spoke to Bilam, right? Psichas Pia Aretz Livla, and also by Korach, right? The hole in the ground that opened up to go ahead and swallow up. Those were all created on the Bein Hashmashos of the first Friday into Shabbos of creation. Reb Chaim Yamer, the Shum Avis, and the name of his father. Even fire, right, which we're talking about now, even fire was created Bein Hashmashos of the creation, and vaparad, and also a parad, which is a mule, combination of a donkey, right, and a horse, right. And Rabbi Yeshua, Amir, Mishum Aviv, Af Ha'ayil, Vashmir, even the ayil by Avram Avinu when he got the ayil instead of like Kedis Yitzchak, and Vashamir. The shomer was a worm that was used to go ahead and basically bite through or cut through the stone for the building of the Beis Hamikdash. And Rabbi Yehuda Amir Af had Tzeves, and Rabbi Yehuda says that even Tzeves is like tongs, right? Basically a metal tongs, right? And how do you make tongs? You make tongs with other tongs in order basically to create a mold to go ahead, and you need the metal hard part to go ahead and create new metals. So, but if you need it, right? So how do you make the first tongs? If tongs are only made from other tongs, you need one to start with, right? The chicken or the egg, right? But you need something to start with. So so he said no. It must have been that the first tongs were also made from from Hashem. So really, no. No, it is possible to go ahead and make a mold, right, out of wood or whatever it is in order to go ahead and create these metallic tongs and kaven and nevertheless, so therefore that is possible. You don't have to say that Kadosh Baruch Hu made the first one. You could say he that was created by man. So nevertheless, we have the kasha. How could you say fire was created on Motzei Shabbos? If we see them according to one of the opinions here, the fire was created on Bein Hashmashos of the first during creation. So where it says no, lo kasha hub or didon hub or the Gehenna. One is talking about our fires, all right? The other one is talking about the fire of Gehenna, or didon Motzei Shabbos, or the Gehenna of Shabbos. Our fire was created on Motzei Shabbos, and the fire of Gehenna. Actually, I think it's Ur, right? The Ur of Gehenna is created, was done on the Erev Shabbos. I've ordered the Gehenna Erev Shabbos. Ivri, that was created Erev Shabbos. There were seven things that were created prior to the creation of the world. Ve'eluhein, and these are it: Torah, Utshuva, the Gan Eden, the Gehenna, the Kisei HaKavod, Beis Hamikdash, Ushmo Shel Mashiach. Right. So all these seven things. Right, so all these seven things were created prior to the existence of the world. So, and where do we know that? So now the Brisa gives all the sources. It says Hashem kanani reishis darko, right? So Hashem made it in the beginning, right? In the beginning of his way, before his ways, basically it was in the beginning. Torah was in the beginning. And Chuvah by Chuvah it says B'terem harim yoladu, before the mountains were born. And it says it says right after Teishev Alish al dakav Taimer Shuv b'nei Adam. It says return, right? Basically Chuvah. So Chuvah was created before the mountains were before creation. Gan Eden d'chsiv vayita Hashem Elokim Gan be'Eden mikedem, right? The Gan was created from before, right? From before creation. Geheden d'chsiv ki arach mi'esmot tafta. It says right from yesterday. So it says that tafta was already created. And tafta is referring to Gehenna. So you see, Gehenna was not created at Ben Shmashos of the first Friday. Rather, it seems to be it was created prior to the creation of the world. Kisei kavod beis hamikdash. Both of them are together. The pasuk says Kisei kavod maram mirishon malkum miroshenu. So it says over there, those were so Kisei kavod maram mirishon from the beginning, from before creation. The Kisei kavod and the beis hamikdash, those were created before and the Ushmo Mashiach, and also the name of Mashiach. The pasuk says Yishma li'elam lifnei shemesh yagan shmo yanun shemok. Sorry. So we see over here that his shame, the name of it was even came from prior to the sun being created, prior to creation. So we have a kasha. When was Gehenna created? So the Gemara answers, Amri chalala hu denivra kadem shnivra eilam v'ur didei be'erev Shabbos. The space of Gehenna was created before creation. The fires of Gehenna, those were created on the first Friday. I've already day bear Shabbos Hebrew. Still, the fires were created on the Friday. But the fire, right? The fires were created actually by Hashem on the second day, right? On the second day of creation. So it says. So excuse me, Ein lo kvil the element will never be put out. The fires of Rashi Nas pasuk says v'yotzu b'rov vigre anashim hapoishim bi kisolasam loisamos v'isham loisichbes. It says so basically those people who have sinned against me, they will be in the fires that will loisichbe. They will not go out. So you see, referred to the fires will never go out. Those are created on the second day. Well, how come when during creation it doesn't say kitov on the second day of creation? Because that's the day when the fires of Gehenna were created. So therefore, there was like a little, a downside to the second day of creation. Rabbi Elazar, as kol asher asa v'hinei tov mo. So even though it doesn't say kitov on the second day, it made up for it on Yom Hashi when it says v'hinei tov mo. So it made up for it for that. So nevertheless, we see that the fires of Gehenna were not created on the first Friday. Rather, it was created on the first Yom Sheni, on the first Monday. The Ella kaidem shenivra olam. The space of it was created, as we said, before the creation of the world. And the fires of Gehenna, you're right, was created on the first Monday, the second day. So what was created of Shabbos? And our fire was basically thought of, right? It was already thought of. It was planned already from Erev Shabbos, but it didn't come into creation until the first Motzei Shabbos. The Tanya, as you see, we learned in this Bryce, it said Rabbi Yossi, Erev Shabbos. There were two things that went to the mind of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kavyachol, to create on the Erev Shabbos. V'lo nivro ad Motzei Shabbos. It was not created until Motzei Shabbos. Motzei Shabbos nasan HaKadosh Baruch Hu deya be'adam rishon. And that Motzei Shabbos, HaKadosh Baruch Hu basically gave the knowledge or the idea to Adam Rishon to go ahead and create him. So main dugma shel ma'ala. So basically, he saw some sort of vision. He took two stones, two flintstones, and basically rubbed them together, created a spark, and created a fire from there. So therefore, that was on the first month of Shabbos. And also what he did, and he also took a horse and a donkey and basically mated them on the first month of Shabbos, and a mule came out. However, the parad was actually, the mule only came later on during the days of Anna, who was, we'll soon see, he was by the lineage mentioned later on in Bracious, I think there's a Lamed Vav over there later on. So it says, it says, "Who Ana Asher Matzah Es Hayam b'Midbar." Right, he is Ana who basically found the mules in the Midbar. And so we'll soon see who this guy was. So Darshe Chamuros, Hayoimrim, those who darshan the Chamuros, basically the hidden drush of the Torah. Hayoimrim Ana Pasul Haya. He was a pasul, right? He was somebody who basically did not have a good, right? His mother and father, right, were not permitted one another. He was a pasul. Therefore, he brought something pasul to the Elam, right? He took basically two different species and mated them in this world, and therefore he created that because he himself was not, right, basically he was not purebred. Shnei Mars, the pasuk says, Elu b'nei Seir Hachuri. As it says, these are the sons of Seir Hachuri, right? It says over there, Shavav at Tzivon v'Ana. So it says Tzivon and Ana were brothers, right? They were brothers, the son of Seir Hachuri, right? Ksiv Elu b'nei Tzivon then says these are the sons of Tzivon, v'Aya v'Ana. And he was also the son of Tzivon, so he was the son of his brother. So it must be that he came, right? So his father was right. His father was with his sister, right? So therefore, basically, he came from something impure. Ela Melami Shabbat Tzivon al Imo. That Tzivon was Ba al Imo, the holy Mimena Ana, and Ana came from Tzivon, who basically had relations with his own mother. And therefore, so Tzivon was his also, in addition to being his brother, he was also his father. The Gemara says, maybe there's two different Anas. It is a common name, right? John Smith, right? Common name. So maybe, they both had two different ones, right? Some Rava, so he says Rava, Amina Milsa, the Shvermalka, I'll say something that even Shvermalka, which is like a title of a great rabbi, that didn't say Uman, and who was that Shvermalka, who was that great rabbi? Shmuel, and Ikadamin, some say Amarav Papa, Amina Milsa, the Shvermalka, I'll say something that Shvermalka didn't even say Lo Amra, Uman, and who was that? That was Rava. It says Amar Kra, the Pasuk says, Who Ana, the pasuk says, "Hu Ana," right? He is Ana. Hu Ana the Mikara. He knows it's the same Ana. That's what's coming to teach you on the extra word Hu Ana. That he, when the pasuk says, right, Hu Ana Shir Matzah Siyamim, right? He is Ana. He's the same Ana, and therefore he came from a pasul lineage, and therefore he was the one who created or found the mule. Fine. 5 lines from the bottom. Tanur Rabbanim, Asar Dvarim, we saw this earlier. Asar Dvarim, Erev Shabbos, Ben Hashmashos, there were 10 things that were created on Erev Shabbos between Ben Hashmashos, right? As the day was changing, as the sun went down. The Elohim, and these are it. Be'er, right? The Be'er of Miriam, Uman, and the Man, and the Kashas, and the rainbow. Aksav, that was the writing, the script, Hamichtav, and that which was used to go ahead and write the Luchos, themselves. Kibbur Moshe, the grave Moshe Rabbeinu, Umara Shomer Ba Moshe Elio, and also the pit, the air, the space, the Moshe Elio with Hashem. That cave was created. Psichas Piazon, and then the mouth of the donkey to speak by Bilam. Upsichas Paaretz Livloas Rashayim, also the hole in the ground, basically to go ahead and open up to swallow up the Rashayim by the rebellion of Korach. The Yeshayim, some say Af Makol Sha'aron. Some say even the staff of Aaron that was used to perform some of the miracles, right? Actually, in order for them to go ahead and cure themselves, right, with flowers and the almonds on it. The Yeshayim, some say Af Hamazikin, some say even Mazikin. Different types of shadim are also created on the first Bein Hashmashos of creation. The Yeshayim, some say Af Bigdo, Shal Adam Rishon, also even the clothing of Adam Harishon. Fine. Top line on Nun Dalet Amud Beis.
Rabbi, what's the cave of Moshe Rabbeinu?
Where he was buried?
It says the cave of Moshe and Elio. What is that?
No. So when Moshe went up, right? When Moshe went up to go ahead, right?
It's the cave on Har Sinai.
Right. So it's right. And also Elio, he said he went to Har Elokim, right? So, and it says Vayivasham El Hamora Vayilan Sham. So it says he went to the cave over there, right? And to be alone, with Hashem. So there was those areas that they were secluded with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That was planted in this world, whichever areas that those were.
I thought it was on top of a mountain, but gotcha.
Well, it says he went to the here. He brings out the pasuk Mara Shama Ba Moshe Shematiach Benikras Hatzur. It brings the pasuk in Shema. So he says he went up. I don't have a chumash in front of me. But what is it?
Ozzy, you're muted.
You're muted, Ozzy. Ozzy.
I tried to unmute with the space bar. It says in Kitisa, "V'samticha b'nikrat atzur." Hashem said, "I'm going to put you here, hidden in the rocks, so that when I pass, you'll see my back." V'samticha b'nikrat atzur. So that's the same place where Eliyahu was when he got to Hara Elokim. Yeah.
Right. So that was right. I mean, it brings out the pasuk here in Shmos Lama Gimel. Just it doesn't bring down the
Kitisa for those of you who want to go back and review.
Yeah. All right. Fine. Shkayach. So top of the page, Nun Daled on Beis. So it says Tan Rabbanan Shiva Dvarim Mechusim Mibnei Adam. Right. There are basically 7 things that are hidden from a person. And Elu Hain Yom Hamisa, the day of his death, the Yom Hanachama, and the day he'll have, like, from his worries, he'll be like he'll have his appeasement, right? His Nachama, the Aimek Hadin, and he'll have Aimek Hadin. Whether it's the din in the future or some sort of din in this world. A person also doesn't know what his friend is thinking. Also, a person won't know how he'll make a living. And also the Malchus Beis David, when will return. And also this Malchus Chayeves, I guess the Roman government or the nations that are upon us, when that will also cease. And Tanur Rabbanan, finally, right? There were 3 things that were thought of during the creation, and even if they weren't thought of, then they needed to come in this world for the world to survive. And alames shiasriach, in order for a dead person to start to decompose, or else people will not go ahead and bury the dead, because they will leave them in their houses. Also, for a person to basically, if one loses a loved one, right, for over time, for that to be, the heavy weight sort of gets, lifted from the heart. Also for grains and stuff to rot. Otherwise, people just hoard it all and leave it in their house forever. They can't, so therefore it's brought to the market. So also the whole concept of currency, going around and associating values to things that don't necessarily have value. Currencies, those are also something that was needed for the creation of the world. Fine. Naya Mishnah. Mishnah says, Makom shenagu la'asais malacha b'Tisha B'Av Eiser. In a place where the minhag is to go to perform, to be able to do work on Tisha B'Av, you can do it. Makom shenagu shalo la'asais malacha ein eiser. In a place where they don't do malacha, you should not do the malacha. We call makom. Any place, Tamil should not go ahead and work. They should think about the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. A person should always make himself like a Talmid Chacham, and it's not considered to be a balgaivish thing for a person to not work and say, oh, he thinks he's a Talmid Chacham. He can, instead of going to work in the fields, he's thinking about the temple. Fine. Zok the Gemara. Omar Shmuel ein tainis tzibur bevavel ella Tisha B'Av bilvad. There is no tainis tzibur, right? These have a tainis tzibur for if there's no rains, so they would go ahead and they would declare fast. So there's no tainis tzibur in Bavel ella Tisha B'Av bilvad. The only one they had was Tisha B'Av bilvad. So the Gemara says, "Ay lemeimra desaver Shmuel Tisha B'Av ben Hashmasha shalo aser." Right. So you're telling me that that Shmuel holds, right, that on Tisha B'Av during the Bein Hashmashos, it's usher to go ahead and do anything. V'amar Shmuel Tisha B'Av Bein Hashmashos Shalom Mutter, right? So if you're comparing the two, and if we assume that Tanis Tzibur is usher to do with that, and it sounds like the Tisha B'Av is different, so then it would. Are you telling me that he would hold that Tisha B'Av is usher? We see that Shmuel says Tisha B'Av Bein Hashmashos is mutter to go ahead and eat, to still eat during Bein Hashmashos, to do work. So and if you're going to say, oh, maybe Shmuel said that any tanis tzibur, that it's also mutter, it's also go ahead and mutter to go ahead and eat during that. You're allowed to go ahead and eat while it's still day. So what does it mean while it's still day? It's not to exclude Ben Hashmash. It sounds like Ben Hashmash is aser. So the verse says no, lo. Once it becomes dark, but during Ben Hashmashos, right, that would be permitted. So name him a saile. So let's say this is the proof. Ein bein Tisha B'Av Yom Kippurim ela shezos sveiko aser. V'zeh sveiko mutter. Samai sveiko mutter lav ben hashmashos. right? So we're saying, so let's say there's a proof. You seem to say, Shmuel, that during Tisha B'Av, Ben Hashmashos is mutter to go ahead and eat, right? This we're talking about, right, during twilight, right, the end of the 8th into the 9th of Av, right? That's Ben Hashmashos of Tisha B'Av, right? So we have one brayso that says there's no difference between Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av except for doubts, something which is a suffix. So what's suffix? Twilight itself is a suffix. Is it still the end of the previous day, or is it the beginning of the new night? So that's the suffix. So Yom Kippur is aser, and Tisha B'Av is mutter. So you see, Ben Hashmashos of Tisha B'Av is mutter. The says no. Kadamar Rav Shisha B'Rei Ravidi lekviya de yarche. Right. In order, a person is suffix. He doesn't know which day was Rosh Chodesh. Was it the first day? Was it the second day? And therefore, if he doesn't know, you don't know when the fast day is. So therefore, that's the only difference. When it comes to Tisha B'Av, you only go ahead and observe one. So, however, when it comes to Yom Kippurim, you would have to go ahead and observe 2 days in a row of fast day because you don't know when Rosh Chodesh is. So over here, that's what's referring to, talking about the month, but the suffix wasn't referring to Ben Hashmashos. So Dorash, Rava says, Rava Darshan, Ubrais, women who are pregnant, Benikos, or nursing, Mitanas, Mashlimas Bo, Kadesh, Misanas, Mashlimas B'Yom Kippur. They go ahead and they fast, and they complete the fast in the same way. They go ahead and complete the fast for Yom Kippurim. Uben Hashmashos Shalom, Aser, and the Ben Hashmashos is Aser. And so they said the name of Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi Yochanan seems to say that the Ben Hashmashos is Aser on Tisha B'Av. And the Rabbi Yochanan say this. Rabbi Yochanan, Tisha B'Av Eino B'Tanis Tzibur. So my love Ben Hashmashos, that Tisha B'Av is not like a Tanis Tzibur, right? A Tanis Tzibur was very strict, right? And those are the days where they used to go ahead and fast for the rains. So it's not like a Tanis Tzibur. So it doesn't mean that Ben Hashmashos. So it sounds like Ben Hashmashos would be mutter and not aser. So God says, lo, malacha. Maybe means for malacha. Right? Maybe it says malacha. That's the kula by Tisha B'Av, is that you can go ahead and work Ben Hashmashos, right? Right? Excuse me, right? Nothing else. We're talking about work, right? On Tanis Tzibur, you can't go ahead and work, and by Ben Hashmashos, you would not be able to go ahead and work. So Gemara says malacha. Tanina, we actually learned makom shenagu lasas malacha, which is our Mishnah lasas b'Tisha B'Av. Aisin malacha over makom shenagu shelo lasas ein aisin. Right, that in a place where the minhag is to work, you can work. In places where the minhag is not to work, you should not work. And even Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, who said that Talmid Chachamim do not do, and a person should be active himself like a Talmid Chacham. That if a person sits around, maybe you'll say, oh, he shouldn't go ahead and fast because now he's thinks he's a Baal Guy, thinks he's a Talmid Chacham. But he didn't say it's also to go ahead and work. So how could you? All right. So we see over here that everybody agrees that really Vatsam Malacha is mutter on Tisha B'Av, right? So it's mutter on Tisha B'Av. So how could you say that Tisha B'Av, right? So we already know that. So that can't be what it's teaching us. So Ella Ma in a Tanis Tzibur. What do we mean that Tisha B'Av is not like a Tanis Tzibur? The Tfilas Ne'ilah. When it comes to the Tefillah of Ne'ilah on the public fast, they used to go ahead and say in the Ne'ilah towards the end of the day. On Tisha B'Av, we don't. A person should daven all day. Let him say even Ne'ilah on Tisha B'Av. So Hasam Chayva HaCharishus over there in Tanis Tzibur, it's a Chayva for the Ne'ilah. But when it comes to Tisha B'Av, it's not a Chov. My in it Tanis Tzibur. What does it mean when we say Tisha B'Av is not like a Tanis Tzibur? Le'asrim ve'arba. Right, for the 24 different brachas they used to say during, not, I guess it's not called Shemona Esrei because Shemona Esrei is 18, right? During the Shemona Esrei, they would have 24 brachas. They would add brachas to make it a higher level of tefillah. So therefore, that was set on the Tanis Tzibur versus Tisha B'Av. And Rav Papa Amar, my eno Tanis Tzibur. What does it mean? Tisha B'Av is not like Tanis Tzibur. Eno karishonos ela kachronos vasura. Right? It means it's not like the first ones. The first ones, they used to just go ahead and start the fast in the morning, right? Rather, it would be like the later ones when it get more severe, when there was longer periods of time with no rain, then it was like those periods of time where the fast wouldn't start at sunrise. Rather, Tisha B'Av would start from the sunset of the night before of when the 9th begins on the calendar day. So Meisvei. Now, so that was comparing, right, Tisha B'Av to Tanis Tzibur. So now, right, which will sort of play into the end of today's shir. Now we have another comparison between Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur. So Meis Vesu Kasha, it says over there, Ein bein Tisha B'av Yom Kippurim ela shezeh sfeiko aser v'zeh sfeiko mutter. There is no difference between Tisha B'av and Yom Kippur. But a doubt is aser when it comes to Yom Kippur, but a safek when it comes to Tisha B'av is mutter. Samai sfeiko mutter la ben ishmashos. Shalom is now referring to ben ishmashos, which we had this kasha earlier. So Amarav Shishi b'rei Davidi lo the kfir dercha. No, when it comes to basically setting the calendar, and therefore when you set the calendar to know when it is, if you're not sure which day it is, when it comes to Yom Kippur, you have to go ahead and fast both and be knowing both days is Yom Kippur. However, when it comes to Tisha B'av, you only have to do one. So it sounds like what you're saying that everything else is the same between Yom Kippur and Tisha B'av. So Messiah Rabbi Elazar, this is a pip for Rabbi Elazar. Dam Rabbi Elazar, a person cannot go ahead and put his finger in water, right, which is a form of bathing on Tisha B'av, just like a person can't go ahead and do it on Yom Kippur. So Meisvei, so Ein Bein Tisha B'av Tanis Tzibur, El Shezeh Aser B'Siyas Malacha, V'Zeh Moter B'Siyas Malacha. Right, so we said there is no difference between Tisha B'av and Tanis Tzibur, going back to that comparison. Rather, this one, when it comes to a Tanis Tzibur, is aser to do any malacha, and Tisha B'av is mutter to do malacha in a place where they do malacha. But it sounds like everything else they're equal. But by Tanis Tzibur it says, but Tanis Tzibur, you're allowed to go ahead and wash your hands and face. Wait, so you just said that Tisha B'av is just like a public fast where you can wash your hands and face and do all that. But we just said earlier that Tisha B'av is like Yom Kippur, that you can't even put your finger in the water. So which one is it? So Rav Papa, so says Rav Papa, so he says no, Tana Kule Katani. That which they're comparing the other two, it was not comparing to all the chumras of it, right? It was only talking about the kulas of it. In other words, that each had the kula side. It wasn't talking about that we said the only difference is by Tisha B'av is the sis malacha. That's only referring to the kulas. The only kula thing by Tisha B'av versus the other, versus Tanis Tzibur, is the malacha, right? Is the malacha, that's the kula. And not to do that, there are chumras by Tisha B'av versus Tanis Tzibur, i.e. bathing, right? But that wasn't what the Bryce was talking about. The Bryce was talking about the only kula that it comes to Tisha B'av versus the other ones is the fact that you're allowed to do malacha, and the only kula when it comes to Tisha B'av versus Yom Kippurim, we said was that with the double day. But in terms of everything else, in terms of bathing or in terms of fasting during Ben Hashmashos, Yom Tisha B'av is the same as Yom Kippurim. And we'll stop here at the top at the two dots. Everyone have a wonderful day and a wonderful Rosh Chodesh. I'll see you guys.
Shkaya.